Thank you for getting this conversation about the quality of sanitary pads going. Big ups to that lady who put up this video with the different sanitary pads. One thing you got definitely 100% right is that if you want to assess your sanitary pads, yes, you need to stretch it out properly under a white light, a specific white light. That you got right. Number two, definitely in order for you to know that this sanitary pad is of the standards it's supposed to be, you should be able to analyze the interior, the content of the sanitary pads, which is what you see her doing. But three things that she got wrong. First thing that she got wrong, when you stretch out the pad and you see these different particles that look like what she is alluding to be dirt or mold or something, well, that's not really the case. Sanitary pads have something that is called the core of the sanitary pads. The core is the material that is used to absorb the blood. It's made of different materials. Most companies that I work with in Kenya, the local manufacturers, they use a specific core that comes from a certain tree that comes from the USA. And so that specific core is imported from the USA. And when you see the different, when you see the different, let me say, spots that she was trying to show and allude that it was dirt or mold, that's actually the core that has separated. So what she should be telling you is that that particular sanitary towel has a low quality core because it has separated. Why, you may ask, why does it separate? Is because sometimes the machines are not set well. So it could be an issue of poor machines that are not set well, so the core separates. But it could also be an issue of just bad material that you're using to form the core of your sanitary towel. Now, for most local manufacturers, some of them who are in that video, they also use an additional absorbent material called a SAP, which is a polyamorous. It's a special fabric. You see, when you get the ultra thin pads and you wonder how come they are able to absorb up to 10 times more blood and they're very thin, it's because there's something called the SAP, which is an extra material that most local manufacturers also use. So when you stretch out the pad in a proper light and assess, and you see those, what you call the dark spots or whatever, literally that is poor quality core, not necessarily mold, and that's actually not dirt. So that's one thing we need to educate people out here. And yes, girl, you got it right, stretching out under a white light, but you must stretch it out to certain standards for you to get the proper diagnosis. So it's not just holding it up under any white lights that you have at home. There are specifications of the type of light, and there are specifications on how you stretch it out. So the concept of putting it under the light is right, but how she did it, that's a bit questionable. Because, I mean, if we're going to talk about the real story and what we have to discuss, then also let's be factual on the things that we need to do. So another thing is, there's the issue of this one is yellow, this one is dirty, this one has these pieces of blobs up there, the dark spots. So I think I've demystified the dark spots. Something called the core material to absorb the blood, and then other companies also use an extra thing called the SAP, which takes in a lot of. So when you see those dark spots, that's a poor quality core, and that can be caused by how you set up your machine, either poor machine use or actually just bad material for the core. Now I want to demystify this thing about mold. I don't want to say that it's completely impossible to get mold in your sanitary pads, but chances of having mold in your sanitary pads, especially for the local manufacturers that I work with, is almost, let me say, impossible. Because if you go to these production plants, this particular critical facility it's a dry plant. There's no water, there's no, in fact, those are some of the things that they have to be checked in order for them to be ISO certified. So, and for you to be able to say, look over there, that's mold, you actually have to conduct a culture test. And a culture test, for those of you who are shining in biology, you know, takes 2 to 3 days for you to ascertain this is mold, what type of mold, what caused it, and things like that. So, big ups for the lady for that conversation. I am so excited, by the way, about all the comments and everything that's trending. But let's be very careful not to kill the local industry by misinformation. There is some misinformation in that video, especially the part where you call out the dark spots of the different colors and say, hey, you know, that's mold or that's that. No, that is core. That is the core. That is the fabric that is used to absorb the blood. And there's different qualities. And depending on what you see, you can be able then to say, this is of good quality, this is not of good quality. I have made a couple of calls to the local manufacturers and I've told them to put out an educative video of what constitutes the sanitary pad, so that by next week, by the time someone is coming to tell us A, B, C, D, at least us who are bleeding, we know, hey, yeah, that's true, that's not true. But big ups to that lady, because you have started the conversation, you have gotten the conversation going. And definitely for all those companies, for all those sanitary pads where you have seen the different dark, the separation of the core, I want to say that outright, that is poor material. That's a poor core. And so you're not getting value for your money. And that's why you have leaks. That's why sometimes you have a pad and you're leaking and you're like, what the? Why am I leaking? Yeah.